Welcome back, family. It's your boy Seth Guru Baxter and the Seth Guru Baxter podcast on Maker's Bar, where we are creating 1 million leaders today for tomorrow. There could not be a better example of some of those leaders that we're talking about creating, because here's a prime example of programs that benefit young people and becoming leaders. He was a former delegate in the California Model Legislature program, also known as Youth in Government. And I had the distinct pleasure of being his advisor. So he's like a grandbaby of mine, even though he's an adult. And I had the distinct honor of knowing that he is running for Senate. Now, I think we're all under the understanding that this is in particularly a very important race. Why this interview and a number of my interviews coming up with candidates who are running for office are particularly important for you to pay attention to. This young man has the fire in his breast, and he has a number of different issues that are extremely important to him. Welcome to the Seth Guru podcast, Zennon Ulyate-Crow. 2 last names, no middle name.
You got it. Really happy to be here.
Fantastic. Zennon, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. You appreciate having me on.
Absolutely. Zennon, tell us about your origin story. Where do you hail from?
Yeah, totally. So my background, I'm a 5th generation Californian, born and raised in Los Angeles my entire life. I'm a proud Pali High graduate, Palisades Lades, referencing the youth in government.
Oh, yeah.
And my origin story really comes from a philosophy that I've always had, which is I'm not allowed to complain unless I'm doing something about it. And in the 8th grade, that took me to a small scale project to try and have a safe walking pathway between my local elementary school and library. Because I used to get off the school bus every day, walk on this super dangerous state road, blind turns, dirt shoulder, super fast cars. And I thought, this is terrible. Someone's going to get hurt. And I decided I was going to knock on people's doors and see if they would let me build a pathway through their backyards as it is. And that went about as well as you could probably picture. But the interesting thing was I did connect with someone from Caltrans, and they told me that they would never make improvements to this small stretch of roadway because if they put up a guardrail or build up a sidewalk, they would take liability for anything that went wrong. And they didn't want that liability. And for me, that was a pivotal moment where I realized we've sent people to the moon. We've built the aqueducts. We've done all these incredible things. And now we can't even put up a guardrail because we're more scared of what could happen than the danger that already exists. And the fact there are kids that are walking along the super dangerous state highway every single day. And so I got a fire in my belly, as you said, and really from there decided that this is what I wanted to do. I wanted to be involved in my community. I wanted to advocate for things, and I wanted to make things happen more than anything else. So where it took me on this journey is in the 10th grade, I started going up to Sacramento to do lobbying for affordable housing bills. I worked on a whole ton of congressional and Senate campaigns all throughout high school and college, including working on the Biden campaign in DC for the Progressive Outreach team. My first year of college, I became the youngest commissioner in Santa Cruz history, doing stuff on transportation public works, helping bring the first bus lanes to Santa Cruz County. And also I founded a nonprofit called the Student Homes Coalition, passing 4 pieces of legislation in Sacramento, making it easier to build affordable student housing and to prevent landlords from taking security deposits away at the end of your tenancies. And in the end, went through all of that, came back to LA, was running a nonprofit in Santa Monica, where I was doing a lot of work on, again, housing affordability, mobility, downtown revitalization. And I still couldn't afford to move out of my parents' house. In fact, I am coming to you live from my childhood bedroom. Same
That's
bedroom,
cool. That's still cool.
which is crazy. It's a trip. I like, you know, don't get me wrong, the walls aren't neon green anymore, but it's still, and, I honestly, that's a total aside. I literally had a green screen green room. I don't know what my parents were thinking in letting me choose that, but hey, um, and I couldn't afford to move out, right? And I was having a good paying job. I saw how my friends, years after graduating college, couldn't get jobs in computer science and economics, the traditionally safe pathways that we were told will get you a job out of college. And then I was in downtown LA last summer, peacefully protesting against ICE when the raids first started happening. And I got shot in the face with a rubber bullet by LAPD. And it was a real hit across the face moment, literally, where I realized I have to step up and be the change I want to see. And we live in California. We have the opportunity to make this place the shining beacon of opportunity and safety for folks that are escaping persecution across this country right now. And that's really what drives me, is knowing that our place, our community can be that welcoming environment. And that, as someone who's a fifth generation Californian, right, who has had family members who have benefited tremendously from being able to live here and enjoy this place, that opportunity shouldn't end with me. That opportunity should be extended to everyone, and especially running to be the first Gen Z legislator in California, extend to the next generations, because we're inheriting this crisis and we've got to step up and do something about it.
You struck a couple of different chords, but one very quick one is very unique and is substantive. Mm-hmm. You would be the first, if elected, Gen Z elected official, correct?
Yes.
And tell us how important that is.
Yeah, look, Gen Z is nearly 30 years old as a generation at this point. That is millions and millions of Californians that right now do not have a direct line to a voice in Sacramento. And the issues that are decided at the state level, those are the issues that affect us most in our day-to-day lives. And I think government works best when it represents everybody, and all perspectives are able to come together and figure out how we are going to do these things together, especially in the onslaught of AI and a changing economy and a world that our generation is uniquely growing up into, and seeing firsthand the effects of this changing technology in a way that many other folks have yet to experience. And so I want to bring that knowledge and expertise of a digital native, of someone who realizes that we're not going back, but we also have to go forwards. We can't just stay stagnant. We can't just say that we're going to lose jobs and not have a pathway or provide for folks. And so I think really that's why it's so important to me to really be doing this, to be setting the stage to represent young voices in this state and bring those to light, because it is the future and we have to start preparing for it now.
In talking about preparation for the future, I've heard many Gen Z express disillusionment on the various political concerns they have that our country is going on. So now you have mentioned somewhat the housing as being an issue. Would that be primarily the issue most disconcerting to you, or are there is there another one, or maybe two others that you see as a Gen Z person, and soon hopefully to become an elected official, that you find are more pressing concern to you, even though they might not be in your jurisdiction to take care of it, elected in your position? It can be anything that you're just in particular issue that really concerns you.
Definitely. Look, housing is hugely important. I'm a subscriber to the housing theory of everything, which is that in the end, all issues at some point or another link back up to housing. And in the state of California, where it is the number one issue, hands down, it is clear that is the thing we have failed on most. And that is the thing that we need to do better. And what does that look like? Of course, for me, it looks like the state being an actual builder of affordable housing. Right now, we don't build affordable housing. We give money and tax breaks to nonprofits who then go ahead and build projects. Except for those nonprofits, their interest isn't necessarily in building the most affordable units. It's in keeping their doors open year after year and being competitive in winning those grants. And it's a whole different incentive structure compared to the state, which is we are trying to build affordable housing and also being able to unlock the economies of scale. That means we can actually deliver the housing at scale needed to solve the crisis. And I really think that that is a huge issue. But again, bringing it back to the future and to AI, that is something I am very, very passionate about. That is something that, in terms of what we are seeing on a day-to-day basis, what will be the future, what will affect all of us, we are heading towards a society where we can no longer guarantee employment for everyone. And that is a weird.
So glad you brought this up. I'm so glad you brought this up. And I'm very curious to hear your perspective.
Yeah, exactly. And in this post-employment society, it will radically shift how we have to provide for people, how people can exist in their day-to-day lives, and what our economy looks like. I mean, one of the things we hear about a lot, obviously, is labor, right? Humans generate labor and then they get wages because they put work into things and they made it happen. In a post-employment society where you don't need that middle management anymore, you don't need people plugging in things to spreadsheets, there's going to be a lot of productivity gains, right? It's going to be a lot cheaper to do a lot of things, which means there's a lot more money to be made. But because it is no longer going to be humans that are reaping those productivity gains, whereas, a computer might have made some human more efficient, AI will more than anything be stratifying wealth towards the owners of AI models, towards the larger corporations and billionaires that already have a stranglehold on society, let alone the impact of not having to rely on humans in the same way to generate those profits. And so we seriously need to fundamentally rethink how we are providing services, how we are doing wealth distribution, all of these things, because in the end, we are all humans and we all have a right to exist. And I think a right to housing, a right to healthcare, a right to food, basic human rights that we should all be guaranteed. And if we can no longer depend on employment because of how technology shifts, it means that we are going to have to take a much larger and more active role in making sure that the wealth gains are spread evenly across all of us who are helping contribute to our society, and also making sure that the services that everybody needs, that there are at a base level. And I think this is something that, again, going back to the Gen Z point, isn't always thought about. People who have been in legislature for a very long time, politicians that have been there forever, they're used to governing for 1980, not for 2020s, right?
Yes.
And there is a fundamental lack of urgency around this issue in particular. I was just in San Francisco and I was having a conversation with someone, and they were saying that we're going to achieve a singularity event in the next 5 years. And if you don't
I've been
know,
hearing a great deal about that. I've been hearing it. If you don't mind, share with it.
Yes, exactly. So the singularity event is essentially that autonomous, AI intelligence will exceed human intelligence, and there will be an infinite growth of knowledge in a singularity event that could cure cancer, could create untold weapons of biometric destruction, could do a whole range of things with that level of information. And this person, who's someone who would know what's going on, says it's in the next 5 years. We haven't even dealt with where we are now, let alone that. And who knows if it'll actually happen in 5 years or not. But the point is that we are already in the future, but
Yes.
Nobody is paying attention to it with the magnitude that it will truly fundamentally shift our society. And that's the perspective I want to bring to Sacramento. As someone who's seeing this, who's seeing the real world impacts of entry-level jobs gone, internships.
What are some of your thoughts about that? Since you're going to be bringing it to Sacramento, what are some of your thoughts on handling it, or at least having conversations about it? What are some of your thoughts about that?
So I'm the child of two below the line entertainment industry workers. So one thing that's really important to me is human creativity, and especially making sure that artists get both the compensation and the credit, and that their data is licensed when it comes to generating these AI models. That is the backbone of creativity. It always has been. The only reason that artists are able to make a living is because they own their own thoughts. Mm-hmm. But in a world where the internet can just, LLM can just scrape the internet and generate something based off a picture that might have been uploaded that is based off of a human's work, that's a very different world to live in as a creator. So that's one thing, definitely licensing and the need for compensation. The other thing is disclosure. Look, we see that there's a lot more AI generated content through video, through bots, through all these things. And it's hard, now, even though we've embraced the internet so much in every aspect of our day-to-day lives, to tell what's real and what's fake anymore, which is a very scary thing. And there needs to be strong laws on watermarking, on saying, hey, if you are using an AI generated video, there's got to be a watermark somewhere in there that says, yeah, this is a video that was not generated by a human. Same thing goes for autonomous accounts. Same thing goes for bots. And the final thing, again, is coming back to wealth distribution. I'm not of the belief that we're Luddites and we're going to go back to the Stone Ages and we're going to just, that's sadly, that's not the future that's going to happen. We are on this trajectory, but the question is, will it be a just trajectory or will it be an unjust trajectory? And without the power of folks actually stepping in to say, hey, we need to make sure that these productivity gains are benefiting everyone, not just the 400 billionaires that own 55% of wealth in this country. That's what we have to step up and we have to act on.
Now, I'm very curious. What are some of the job areas you see that we can utilize this next step into AI? What are some of the possibility of job options you see that your generation will be able to at least participate in?
Yeah, well, it's the same thing with entry-level jobs right now, right? There are still some interns being hired. It's just you need one instead of four, right? And that's not going to be going away for at least another decade, maybe 2 decades, right? And I think more than anything, what you'll see is that there will just be fewer and fewer people doing the work that more people used to do. And the other thing, which is the dystopian part about this, is we've actually, there was this great thing, well, not great, but this thing I read that said, technology was supposed to allow me to not do my dishes and my chores and let me have all my spare time to do creativity and paint and art and make films. And now AI is here to replace all of my filmmaking, my art making, and I still have to do my damn dishes. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah. So, if we're in a weird world where, the very technological solutions for the things that we don't want to do are not here, but it's taking away the things that make us intrinsically human, the creative sides of things. So, to that point, AI will still require materials. It will still require a lot of things related to how do we do service economy levels of jobs, baristas, things like that. Just because AI is there, we're still not there with robots. So like that's the next echelon, but that's not going to come for another few decades at least. And looking at that, what do jobs look like? Jobs look like a lot of people no longer doing the middle to middle upper class.
That's right. Yes.
Jobs of management, and instead being pushed towards more manual labor. We're going to need a lot more plumbers. We're going to need a lot more electricians. We're going to need a lot more that. And it's a strange world where, a lot of those occupations don't even make enough money to live in the places they work right now, let alone what's going to happen into the future. So it's a lot of uncertainty, but in the end, it does all come back to money, and it comes back to influence. And we're seeing, Sam Altman, Elon Musk, all these people that are just pushing the thumb on their scales in unprecedented ways to shape public opinion, electoral outcomes, and living in an oligarchy, essentially. And that's the thing that I fear most is we have to make sure that the power is not solely in the hands of the people that are owning these tech companies, but the power is with the people.
Now, are you suggesting that this new legislation that should be required or might be needed to be required to hold off some of these oligarchies and some of the things that they're interested in doing? Because it's certainly, I don't know that anyone can say that we've not heard from people like Bill Gates, Elon Musk, and Sam Altman as far as their senses on what they think society should do that would do have to do with legislation. So are you thinking that one of the things we should do to protect ourselves as a citizenry, and if you're elected, is to make legislation that says only government officials should be making policy issues, or here's a special counsel where we can take some of their advice? What are your thoughts about that with these tech billionaires? Because they're definitely making their voices known.
Yeah. So I mean, there's two parts to this, right? There's the levers of influencing government and money in politics, and then there's the legislation itself regarding taxation, things like that. To start on money in politics, we need to get rid of Citizen United yesterday. We need to make sure that there are not super PACs. I've seen some really exciting stuff that's happening right now in Montana, where they are saying that any corporation, because corporations are housed under states, any corporation that does business in Montana, they are not allowed to donate to independent expenditure, super PACs, unlimited dark money in politics. And it's a recent legislative movement that's starting to happen all across the country where all these states are saying, hey, if you want to be headquartered here, if you want to be chartered here, you can't be spending your money like this. And it's a really creative way to tackle this problem while going around a lot of the recent Supreme Court rulings that have been so damaging to money in politics. Additionally, we need public financing in our elections. Let me give you an example. So in running for state senate, so by the way, the district is everything from Hollywood to Malibu. Down
I was just getting to that.
It's most of the west side of Los Angeles and a large part of LA County. And it's very interesting because in running for this race, there's the voter guide that goes out to everybody that lives in the district. But when you look in that voter guide, you won't see my name in there. And the reason that is because it costs, as a candidate, $38,800 to be included in the voter guide. I have to pay the state $38,000 to be included in the publicly accessible voter guide that is supposed to be the bare minimum. Here's what every candidate stands for. And this is the thing. You have to buy ideas, right? You have to buy dissemination of information. And that's how money controls our politics, is it controls visibility. Controls through social media ads, TV ads, mailers, even the most basic public-facing government-delivered voter guide that goes to every person's household. And that's ridiculous. And that's the influence in politics.
I didn't know that myself, and I don't think a number of people knew that. 38,000 to the state for that. That's mind-blowing.
Yeah, exactly. And it depends on the size of the race, of course, but it is ridiculous that is the case. And I think more than anything, on the money and politics side of this equation, we have to do those things. And that's how we can start to curb the influence of a lot of the billionaires, because we should still have the principle of one person, one vote, right? That is a base level of our democracy. And to lose that is to head in the direction we're heading right now. And the second part of it, of course, is taxation policy. I'm a proud supporter of the billionaires tax, the only supporter in my district of it. And I genuinely believe that we need to make sure there is a stronger distribution of wealth between the entire economy and between everybody who lives in it, because we are all contributing in our own unique ways. And there are societal and technology factors out of all of our control that are changing the way life is And if we don't adapt and make sure that every human has the dignity of life, the dignity of basic rights, the dignity of basic services, then we're losing the plot. They're losing the plot of taking care of neighbors, losing the plot of what our country and our communities should look like. And so that's, once we can get the money out of politics, really enables us to have the legislators and the legislation that pushes us forward and creates the good policy that we know will actually result in positive changes for people.
I'm curious, do you hear any of your opponents saying similar ideas to yours?
You know, it's really interesting. It's really interesting because I don't think it's on the radar in the same way. I don't think it is. It is in many ways. You know, one thing I've joked about in this race is the only thing separating me from my opponents in the race is about 20 years of age, right? And you know, it's weird because growing up in this, just seeing how radically my life has changed since I got social media as a fifth grader, right? And how radically of a different world we live in. That is something that does not compute in the same way for folks that are older. And I think, again, that lack of perspective in our state government is damaging, extremely damaging. It means that we aren't paying attention to these things. And as well, the other thing is that this race is now the most expensive state Senate race in California history.
Your particular race?
Yep. More money has been raised and spent here than anywhere else. I mean, it's not Chalk. It's Beverly Hills, Bel Air, Santa Monica, Malibu.
Palisades in there too?
Yep. Palisades, Palos Verdes, Manhattan Beach. You know, these are wealthy communities. And we see that, you know, there's a lot of people that are billionaires that are donating in the race. There are a lot of people that are multimillionaires that are donating in the race. And in the end,
real quick, are they benefiting your race, or they're just donating money to various candidates?
Yeah, I take no corporate PAC money. We are all small dollar grassroots donors. So
wow.
We are not taking
buddy.
any of that money. And I'm proud of that because I want to.
Yes, as you should be. I think that's incredible. Yeah. And you know what? Not even it's a challenging subject because there is the need for candidates to need the money. And I think sometimes I bear down in the center because I do understand it's frowned upon to get the big money now from the places. But I do understand some of the need for that and how that goes. But kudos to you for running a real grassroots campaign. And to me, that is a big part of what was missing with this president and a few other candidates prior to this term. There was a grassroots effort that seemed more personal and in touch. And that's what I think a lot of us fell in love with. So in you making a strong stance to not take the money, had you sat down when you thought about entering the race and you made a conscious decision, I will not, or did that happen in midstream of you putting your name in for the race?
Right at the beginning, I knew I was not going to do it. It's not who I am. It's just not. And like being out here saying it how it is, like talking about corporate tech money and how it is really something that can be very, very damaging. Trust me, you see this happen all the time where politicians get a nice big donation and then just don't start talking about it anymore. Right? And
yeah,
me, I'm here to be accountable. I'm here to be transparent. And even through that, I think the thing that's been really wonderful about this campaign is that in the past month, we've done over 5 million views on social media. We've ended up raising more money than anyone else my age in state history over these past months. And that's fully grassroots, fully small dollar donors, individuals that just feel passionate about it. And it's showing the collective people power. And we even just got sent a poll and we're in third in the race.
Oh, yeah.
Which is top 2 primary here in California. So just one more slot to climb and we're there. And it's
incredible.
It's been an incredible movement. And I think it also speaks to something more about how I believe in governing. I don't want to just be sent to Sacramento as one individual to solve your problems. That doesn't work. We know it doesn't work. We know that bills die a quiet death all of the time. In fact, I've had many pieces of legislation that have, at the very least, been attempted to be killed in a quiet back room. But what we do is we utilize the leverage of networks of people, of not just advocating for me, but call your legislator in a different part of the state. Send an email in, hold them accountable at the ballot box. These
Yes,
are the
I'm seeing
things that
that
I
too.
believe
Yes.
in movement building more than anything else. And I think that's what's been missing so much in how we change our politics, especially at the state level, where there's zero to none transparency in what happens, because it's a weird middle governance where it's not your city council member and it's not the issues that are happening at the national level, but it probably has more impact on your day-to-day life than any other level of government. And so that's the philosophy I bring, is really being a movement builder and being someone that's trying to build something bigger than just myself.
Now, you talk about building something bigger than just yourself, and this seems a little segue, but just curious. Charlie Kirk, was he a part of some of that? I know he was very inspiring to young people as far as getting active, even if you were in separate parties and so forth. But part of his dialogue was getting people involved. You can't complain unless you're involved. Was he a part of that inspiration for you?
No, that's really interesting. I mean, he certainly wasn't an inspiration for me, just because I disagreed with him on many things. But it is interesting to see how, in many ways, the future is generational. The future is people that have had a lot of resources for a lot of time and an unwillingness to pass the baton to the next generation. I mean, we see it in our politics all of the time, right? Where you have younger folks that want to step up, and then the establishment that have been in office for 40 years don't want to see that happen.
That's correct.
Like my Congress member has been in office 5 years longer than I've been alive. The entire time, my entire life, plus 5 years, has been the same person in office. That's an insane.
It really is, man.
Wrap your head around.
It really is. And I think oftentimes people forget how significantly important that is, that we have these lifetime elected officials. And when we begin to question why aren't things changing, that's a prime example.
Exactly. And so to go back to like Kirk and things like that, it's clear he was frustrated, and he captured a lot of people that were frustrated with this exact dynamic. And do I think that he was going about, it the right way in terms of what his ideas were? No. But do I wholly understand the frustration that young people have? The fact that they feel the system's rigged against them, that they didn't have a chance the day they were born? Yes, 100%. And we need to tackle that as a coalition of people that are not in these positions of power versus those that are. And that's the politics that I see of the future, is something saying that, no, there are a bunch of billionaires that are running things, and that's a problem.
Very much so. Now I'm curious, you brought up two questions to my mind. Why do you think it's important to retain the two-party system, Republican and Democrat? Or if you don't think it's important to retain that, and I participated recently in a discussion that said, isn't it time we had a third party? And I found that fascinating, because we have a third party, we have a fourth party, and a fifth party. So my thought was, why not work with one of the established parties and their foundational base and build that one up like an independent party? So for you, are you in support of just retaining the two-party system? Are you for, because you mentioned this coalition, which I love that thought, and I think that we have to work more in that direction on both sides of the fence. So are you more one on building a coalition, nonpartisan?
Yeah. So it's funny you say that. I mean, so I'm a registered Democrat. I'm running as a Democrat. I've done a lot of Democratic Party politics things. It is the only option in the state of California. There is a one-party state. We have, I think, I want to say it's an 80% majority in the state legislature that are Democrats.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
So what it means to be a Democrat in California doesn't really mean anything, because everybody's a Democrat. And I am a wholesale believer that the two-party system is just terrible. It's just terrible. It's terrible for all of the reasons that it means that our politics get pushed in a direction of actually not, extremes, but actually a direction of misrepresentation. Everybody's constantly, holding their nose and voting for someone because they
Yes,
think I have to be strategic about it because, well, if I don't do it, then the other guy might do it. I
that's
think the
right.
governor's race actually in California is a really interesting example of this. So
I do too. I agree. There's so many elements to discuss with that.
exactly. So, like 10
Yep.
or however many, 61 governors candidates,
Yeah.
if I remember correctly. And we see that a lot of the narrative that's being pushed right now is that there's a danger of two Republicans progressing to the election and locking out the Democrats, and that we might not get a Democratic governor as a result. But what people don't talk about and what they should know is that there's actually another option. If that was to happen, if there were two Republicans to go to the general, there's still the opportunity for a write-in campaign. There would likely be an individual that would end up ascending and being the consensus point in this scenario, and people would write in their name. And in a state where the vast, vast, vast majority of people are Democrats, they would probably win. But the interesting thing is that doesn't get talked about at all as an option, even though that's been used in many elections across the country when who goes off to the general election isn't necessarily who the favored person is overall. And that's very intentional because what it does is it pushes people to vote for whoever they think is the most likely to win, not whoever they necessarily agree with more, or whoever they want to do things with more. And in the state of our race, right, obviously the two front runners at this point are Becerra and Tom Steyer. And in that decision, it's really interesting to hear people say, well, I'm torn between Becerra and Steyer. Because I'm like, those are like the two opposite sides of the spectrum. It should not be like that's your flip coin, your choices. But because we're in this weird world where that's the fear of the two Republican outcome, people intentionally moderate themselves because they think we're going to go with the middle of the ground candidate because they're more likely to capture votes from both sides and do the thing and yada yada, even though we've seen time and time again it's actually economic populism that is the broad-based policy. It is taxing the billionaires. It is doing all of these things. And it's, this all comes back again to the two-party system where you get chucked between a rock and a hard choice. And so, I am a Democrat that is proud of a lot of the work that has happened in many ways in despite of the Democratic Party. And I think more than anything, we need to change the party. In fact, I was just at a rally up in San Francisco with Choi Cott, who's running for Congress up there, Angela Torres, who's running for Congress in Los Angeles, a number of other candidates that are running for Congress across this country to challenge Democrats that have been in office and are not listening to their constituents and are taking money from billionaires and are actively engaging in corrupt practices. And I think more than anything, that's the future that I see, is a future of a party that is driven by the people.
And so you're okay. So you're okay with the two-party system. Don't add on to it. Leave the main two parties where they're at, and the other smaller ones, they never do anything, is what people say. Which I don't know that that's the best way to look at that.
Yeah.
But
well,
so you'd rather rather make the changes from the inside as opposed to changing the party system itself.
Purely, I would actually rather it was not a two-party system and that there was a bunch of different parties and it was much easier to ideologically sort folks in that way, because that's the biggest form of transparency. It's too hard to know what every individual candidate stands for, but at least if they can identify with a party that you understand that party's values, there's much better democratic accountability. But I also recognize that we live in the United States of America, and this is the electoral system we have right now, and I'm going to push for ranked choice voting. I'm going to push for exploring parliamentary level government at the state level. It's push for reforming the electoral college and all of these different things because we need to do it, and it will bring out the opportunity for third parties and other to actually thrive and build a strong foothold. But obviously, that's not where we're at today, and I'm not going to stick my head in the sand and pretend that I can dream of something different without taking the actual steps to get there.
For sure. So work within the current party system to change it and overhaul it is where you're standing.
Exactly.
Now, with that, you mentioned something that's always been fascinating to me, and we've had it come up numerous times in youth and government as well as the electoral college. So you were saying, so you were saying to fix that. What does that look like to you?
I mean, abolishing it, but
Oh, okay.
yeah,
Really? So
and
abolish it.
abolish it. Look, we live in a country where it should be a principle of one person, one vote. In the past, election cycle since 2000, right? 2000 election wasn't decided by the popular vote. In 2016, election wasn't decided by the popular vote. The fact that we've had out of what is that? However many elections, 5 elections, 2 of them were not decided by a majority of people. Insane. We live in a democracy. It's not big state versus small state. It's the country of the United States. And I think the fact that, we are relying on a system that was also established to make sure that it empowered segregationist interests through senators being overrepresented, through all these things, and the remnants of that history, it's so clear that we need to alter it. It's a night and day thing. And what that looks like in practice, there's this great thing called the Interstate Compact, where legislatures are passing legislation to say that they will pledge their electoral votes, no matter what, to the candidate that receives the popular vote in the country. So what that does is it makes the electoral college more of a procedural thing than it does an actual substantive thing in the way it is. And that's a really great legislative solution to getting us out of this mess.
I agree, and it's some of the first time I'm really hearing about that. So I'm glad you shared that as well. Very much so. Now, one of the other important issues to you, shifting gears a little bit, is transportation. What are you hoping to do with transportation?
Yeah, look, more people died on our streets in LA last year from traffic violence than gun violence. That is an insane statistic. And I think that when we think about things as a public health crisis, and also that 50% of our emissions in California come from transportation, this is the thing that we have to tackle. And I think the saddest state of affairs is you look at high-speed rail, like you look at our attempts to try and solve these things, and it feels like it goes nowhere. I was super, super happy to be at the D-Line extension opening, bringing the subway from downtown LA all the way out to Beverly Hills, which is going to radically transform the city. And that's a fantastic project that took 40 to 60 years since inception.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? It's just crazy when you think about it. Well, I used to be very in opposition, just thinking because I'm not native to California. They say, why would you build a subway system or a train system in California? It's earthquakes all the time. But that's before I really became aware of some of the other structural stuff. But just, pardon me, the amount of time it took just to get to where we're at now, it's incredible to me.
Yep. Well, and the city, LA used to have the world's largest public transportation network. We had the streetcar system. As much as people like to say LA was built on the car, LA wasn't built on the car. LA was built on the streetcar. It was built on trains. And we see that the problem is that we can't do things anymore. And I think this speaks to a larger problem in general with government, in that government doesn't deliver anymore. Government doesn't know how to do things. And in many ways, we spend billions and billions of dollars every year on affordable housing, on transportation, on climate things. And yet we don't feel like we have anything to show for it, because it doesn't feel like our lives actually improve and this infrastructure gets built. And so when it comes to transportation, we need to get out of our own damn way. And once we arrive at a conclusion that we're going to build this transit project, stop every little local municipality and utility company from delaying them for years and years and years, adding billions of dollars to the costs. We need to do more so that rather than relying on consultants to manage consultants to manage consultants, as what happened with high-speed rail, which caused a whole bunch of corruption and grift and project cost inflation, that it's the state that actually steps up and hires people full-time to do these jobs and to build these projects affordably. I'm a big believer in doing a lot of bureaucratic service reforms. Right now, the way that the state does most of its construction is it uses a lowest cost bidder model, which means that no matter what, they put out a construction project to bid. They say, how much can you build this thing for? And then a bunch of people say, I could build it for X, Y, Z. No matter what, they have to go with the lowest cost option. And so a lot of people will take advantage of that, and they will just submit blatantly false, cheap things without with obfuscating the actual realities of what it will take to build it, knowing that they can, once they get the hold of the line, they can keep on pulling and keep on shaking the money tree along the way. And we should be judging people based on competence, based on their ability to actually deliver these projects. Even though it might not be the cheapest project, it certainly will result in projects that are on budget over time and on time over time. So there's a lot of things that when it comes to transportation and overall government, we are structured for failure, and we need to be structured for success. I think that's why a lot of the stuff that's happening in New York right now under Mamdani Stan, Mayor Mamdani, it's such a funny phrase, is really exciting. I mean, we're paving the potholes. Awesome, right? we're doing things, and that's the government that I want to see. I want to see a government that provides for people and delivers for people, because we have needs, we have concerns, and I wouldn't feel so bad about spending all the much money that I do spend on taxes if I saw something for it.
So if you're utilizing it that way. And now I'm very curious. You mentioned Mamdani. So your take on his election, what does that say to you?
Change is possible.
Okay.
Change is possible, and against all odds.
Great way to look at it. That's absolutely. Even if I have some thoughts behind it, I just think that's a great way to look at it. Hopeful.
Yeah, exactly. And the other thing that's really interesting is you see what happens after the election, right? Now that he did it, and he's the guy, he's going to be there for 4 years, right? The about face that you see among a lot of folks that were really antagonistic and against him, and that are now rejoicing and celebrating him, is incredible. And it's really fascinating to see how, when you have someone that starts to deliver and starts to do things, there's a willingness to say, hey, maybe this isn't so bad. We haven't seen, hordes of millionaires and billionaires leaving New York. We haven't seen the sky fall down. In fact, things are getting better. There's a positive atmosphere, and there's a positivity in the actual infrastructure that's getting built.
You think you can bring some of that positivity?
That's the plan. Yeah.
What do you see inside of yourself that has that positivity? What is that? What is that spark inside of you?
Yeah, I mean, personally, I'm a forever optimist. I believe in the goodness of human nature. I believe that when we are together, can accomplish incredible things. We've seen it throughout time and throughout history, and that belief in positivism is something that is built on hope, right? What is it? Rebellions are built on hope, right? As they said at Andorra. And for me, I see what's going on in New York of both a hope and an overall vision for a positive future, not just a response to the crisis of today, but being proactive, and also an emphasis on delivery, an emphasis on doing, an emphasis on how to just make it actually happen, not just talk about it. And I think that was a thing that was missing a lot of times, is that we saw hopeful people, but it didn't end up necessarily translating into the results we were promised. And that's what I hope to bring, is someone that knows how to pass legislation in Sacramento, knows what it takes to do things, knows that it's not just me, it's a movement, and also believes in a future, believes in the broader vision of a just society where everybody has dignity, everybody has basic rights, we have equitable distribution of our wealth, and we aren't living in a society controlled by the few, a society controlled by the many. And that's something that I hope to bring to Sacramento. And I really hope that, especially in, in the home of entertainment, in the home of where dreaming is possible, that I can help bring that to our politics.
You mentioned a quote that I really like, and I'm going to use it when talking to some of the other elected officials and hopefully elected officials. Government that delivers. I just love that. I think it's simple, short, and sweet, and hits really hardcore, because I think we have very much gotten to government that does not deliver.
Yep.
Except in small cases, because I happen to be privileged enough to know individuals that are making a difference in their towns and their positions, Senate, mayor, even neighborhood councils, because I think they serve a function as well.
Yeah.
So, but I think the largest perception is that government doesn't deliver, and whoever we put in there will not deliver on their promises. And I think that's one of the most vital things that needs to be said going ahead for any politician, not just said, but really mean it. If I am elected, I will deliver. I've even had this thing. I spoke to a candidate friend of mine in Ventura County area, and even said, wouldn't this be something that an elected official, once they get elected, or in the House, all of the House members and all of our congressional leaders all sign a document that says, if I don't deliver, I made 10 promises. If I don't deliver on half of those promises, I will resign my seat. So at least we can get them, get them to commit to 50% of what they promised, because I think it goes without saying, you have a rough road ahead once you are elected, because of you're coming against a machine for newer ideas. And it doesn't mean that they'll necessarily be against it, but you do have an established machine that you have to work in your new ideas. But as far as accountability goes, having a measurement or some guarantee that says our elected officials, once they're elected, they will hold true to their campaign promises. What do you think about that? That was so, and we're going to put it to Zennon. Zennon, you get elected. Here's the bill. From now on, all your elected officials, if they do not fulfill 5 of their promises, they will have to resign. What do you think about that? We're going to go for it, right?
Where do I sign? Yeah. Well, and again, like going back to Mamdani, I think that's the thing that's so exciting, is that his platform was so clear and concise, right? Like,
yes, I agree.
Well, and I'm going to try and name them, and I'm going to mess it up, but fast and free buses, childcare, grocery stores, and then one more that I can't remember. But point being is that he's delivered on the childcare. He's working on the grocery stores. They're going to open their first one in Harlem, if I'm not mistaken. He's working on the fast and free buses. And that's the thing that's so resonating, is that specific, actionable things that improve people's lives, and saying, here's what I'm actually going to do for you. Here's the thing that I'm going to pull through on. And obviously, it's a different beast being in the legislature, because I will be one of 120 legislators in the state of California. But that doesn't mean that we can't build the movement to make these things happen, right? And there are already many fantastic champions in Sacramento fighting for these ideas, fighting for these things. And I want to be there to say, yes, how can I help, not hurt?
Are there any political heroes of past, alive or dead, that you really give you inspiration for some of not only your views, but how you saw them as an example of what you'd like to do once elected?
That's a great question. In terms of political heroes, one thing that I look at a lot are the Milwaukee Council in the 1940s through 60s, and the Milwaukee City Council were some left folks that got elected, and they were really, really obsessed with building a municipal sewer system They wanted to build public sewers, and everybody ridiculed them. And we're like, why do you want to build sewers? That's so stupid. We have all these big issues to worry about. And they were like, no, we're just going to make the quality of life for people really good. And they built public sewers, they built parks, they built schools, they had a government that functioned, and they were one of the longest running left-wing governments in municipal history, because they delivered on things for people that people actually wanted.
Great
And
story.
one thing that's really interesting is that a lot of the time it gets painted that to be pro-government is to be anti-business, and I think that could be further from the truth. I think that right now our government is hindering a lot of the small businesses and the economic gains that we could be happening through our crazy Byzantine permitting processes, through our inefficient bureaucracy, through the exact same things that day-to-day folks deal with government. Businesses have to deal with it too. And I think painting the vision of a government that delivers doesn't mean not supporting the economy. It actually means helping the economy. It means making it so we can have more activity. We can have more cool things. I count myself as a proud member of the I Want More Cool Things caucus. And
I like that.
And I think the act of doing is more than anything what I want to bring. Right. Yeah. And if we can do, then we can dream, and we can build, and we can grow.
For sure. And I really appreciate that. I find myself very much in the lane where you see those candidates who are not only talking the talk, but they're really walking the walk. And they get their hands dirty in their politics that they're very serious about participating in. And I think oftentimes you can see it radiate from them that that's what they want to do. I really am in this to do something, to make a significant change. It's one of the reasons why Youth in Government as a program, the program you were involved in and I was involved in, is so incredible, because it helps to nurture that desire to be a participant in what's going on in your life, being a self-decider. Wouldn't you agree?
100%. That program, I have so much to thank for, in terms of not only just the friends and the connections I made along the way, but also seeing what it can be like to do things in a community. Right. I more than anything, it was such a wonderful experience to meet with people across the state with a wide range of perspectives, and stick us all in a conference room and say, figure it out. And it's great. And I still have so many friends and run into so many people that are connected to that program today.
Fantastic. Now tell me, what's next for you? So you get elected to Senate, which we're rooting for you. You get elected. What does this begin a path of growing in politics and making changes? Does this start that path, or is it you do your 2 terms and you have a set term limit for yourself? How does this work? What does this look like for you?
Yeah, look, for me, I want to focus on delivering, on doing things. I feel like that the whole point and the whole problem is that people say, I'm going to do things, and then they focus so much on whatever their next office is going to be that they don't actually spend any time governing. And so for me, what's next is doing. It's continuing to magnify issues, drive action items, be an organizer, which I have been my entire life, and continuing to stay involved in my community. I think more than anything, the California runs through my veins, and
Me too.
Love it. Exactly.
Me too. It really does.
And it's just such an incredible place, and I care about it so unbelievably much, because I know and I feel more than anywhere else, in this country, maybe even the globe, do we have the opportunity to build something great. And that's what sticks with me, is I want to be here to help, and I want to help make sure that our state delivers on building that incredible future for everyone.
I agree wholeheartedly. One of the topics we didn't get to cover too much or at all, really, but is extremely important to me, having worked with some of the lobbyists and the advocates for this, is keeping the entertainment business here in Southern California.
Yes.
And I know you feel quite strongly about that. And I know somewhat of our time is running low on that, but we definitely want to have you back. But if you can touch on that, because I don't know that not just our 385,000 subscribers and other people who are listening on our other platform levels, but how significantly important that is to find incentives to keep the film industry in Los Angeles and why that's so significantly important. Can you touch on that a little bit and how that's a passion piece for you as well?
100%. Like as I mentioned before, both my parents are below the line entertainment industry workers. It is something that is so deeply personal to me because I feel like the entertainment industry and the creative industry in Los Angeles brings the people that make this city the most incredible place on planet Earth. And making sure that we can hold on to that and expand that is so important to just our identity as a place. And I think the things that we can do about this are many, especially at the state level. Look, one thing we know, it's really, really hard to do permitting for film projects. Now, I talk to friends, and you have to pay hundreds of dollars in fees just to get a 3-person crew to go record on the sidewalk. And it's because we treat these small productions the exact same as a multi-hundreds of millions of dollars production. And that's a problem, especially as content moves more towards short form and vertical formats, where it will be more quantity over anything. So tackling the permitting stuff, and what that looks like is, obviously, I've seen the city of LA has just really recently made some good strides on this. There needs to be some sort of a statewide permitting pathway for entertainment productions because, as much as one city might do well, there are 88 cities just in LA County. And if you're trying to film something across the city of Los Angeles or the county of Los Angeles or the state of California, it's very difficult to go in and talk to every single one of these folks to try and make something happen.
Yeah.
Another thing that we really need to do is the tax credits. We did a lot of really great efforts in expanding those tax credits, and that's starting to help. But there are issues with co-production where what happens a lot of the time is productions can take advantage of tax credits from multiple different municipalities or jurisdictions. So, Canada and France or things like that. And they can stack those on top of each other to help reduce costs and keep them competitive. And right now, California completely lacks in the ability for us to do co-productions with other countries. And if we want to stay competitive, we have to adapt and we have to change and allow for these co-productions. And the final piece of all of this, which is it also speaks to just broader problems, is healthcare. A lot of productions are moving to the UK in particular because they are 5 to 10% cheaper just on healthcare costs alone. Because there is universal healthcare. And that is something that doesn't get talked about a lot. Is the
it does not. It does not.
The lack of services here means that who's bearing the cost of that? It's the productions actually that bear the cost of that. And so if we can pass CalCare in California, which that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but CalCare is a single payer healthcare system for California that keeps on getting killed year after year after year by our one party ruled state. That's something we do. And that's something
I want to check more
make
into that.
Competitive. And so those are just a couple of things. There's many more things as well that we need to be doing. But when we can bring all of these things together, that's how we can make a difference in keeping production and entertainment here in Los Angeles.
It's near and dear to my heart, and you and I have spoken briefly about it, touched on it before our interview. And I'm affiliated with two larger organizations that are really working on the tax credit situation.
Yeah.
And it is extremely important on a number of different levels. So I'm glad that's something on your agenda in moving forward, because the film industry is a huge part of what makes California unique. And especially being that it's built Southern California to what it is. So I think it needs attention from our elected officials. So Zennon, any other areas you'd really like to touch on and let our viewers know?
Yeah, I mean, I'll just close out and would really ask for you guys' support. More than anything, it's an election, so it's all going to come down to votes.
Yeah, tell them the election date, Zennon.
Yes. So you should already have your ballots in your mail as of May 11th is when we were speaking. So anytime between now and June 2nd, turn in your ballot, get it posted. Just go home. Just do it now. You're listening to a podcast. I'm in your ear. And if you live anywhere between Hollywood to Malibu, so that's Beverly Hills, West Hollywood, Santa Monica, UCLA, Sawtell, all the way down to Palos Verdes. That's including Manhattan Beach, Redondo, and also Calabasas, Agora out in the Conejo Valley. You guys are in the district. You guys can vote. And certainly you guys might know of people that might live in the district. In the end, it is a people power campaign. And if you want to check out our social media handles, we are very active. My @ is at ZENNONUC on all platforms. And I would love to have your support and visibility in helping elect the first Gen Z legislator in California.
And I'm glad you hit on that again. I was going to hit on that as well. Plus, ladies and gentlemen, he's one of my grandkids in the YNT in the YNT format.
I love it. I love it.
So, Zennon, we are absolutely in your corner and support, and anything else that you can utilize our platform for, please feel free and don't hesitate to ask. And we are looking forward to your winning this election cycle, and we're looking forward to all the great things you're going to do. Thank you for taking out the time to be with me today.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. And it feels good to have the family support.
Oh yes. Oh yes, you do. You do. Well, what I would say is, when I talk to my audience, I would say the revolution that we're looking for is called a love-volution. It's a revolution of love. Let's go out and promote more of this love-volution with candidates like Zennon Ulyate-Crow.
Awesome. Awesome.
Fantastic. And I just really want to hype on the importance of this particular election cycle. And Zennon mentioned this, Kennedy Zennon mentioned this already. You can't complain if you're not being a participant in bringing it to resolution. So please do take, even though there's a number of people that have had their questions about the last election cycle and so forth. Here's where you can make a change. Here's where you can do something about it. Here's a candidate who's telling you, go out there. Don't just talk about it, be about it. We're really glad to have Zennon here with us today, candidate. Zennon, we're looking forward to the good news that's to come. And please feel free again, as I mentioned, to come back on.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Zennon, take good care, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right.
All right, Zennon.